Okay, hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Girard, a more than audio podcast. We've got an awesome guest on today. She's an accomplished creative with extensive experience in brand development and management, communications and marketing. She has great creative abilities, extensive experience in building, refreshing and supporting brands, and a talent for creating and leading outstanding and highly collaborative teams. Please join me in welcoming Carolina Becerra. Welcome.
Hi, Thomas. Good morning.
Good morning. You ready for 20 questions again?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Number one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Well, I'm a graphic designer by trade. I was trained as a graphic designer, and I've been doing this for forever. So, I've gone through the whole range of design, starting as a junior designer, now as a creative director, and working with a lot of brands, brand identity development. And now I'm into space, and I'm an educator as well.
Great. Carolina and I just met each other pretty recently through my membership with DESCAN, the Design Professionals of Canada, for which Carolina is in a leadership role. So, number two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
A key piece of knowledge that makes me different. Well, I think cultural background is something that really influences anybody. I was born and raised in Mexico, and coming from a culture that is highly visual and enthusiastic and just really joyful of life. I think that is something that has really made my work different and how I relate to people and my environment different, for sure. And being transplanted here to Canada now for basically most of my life. But your roots are always there, right? That's what makes me.
Yeah, it's the people, isn't it? Because I was in Lisbon for a conference a couple of weeks ago, and I was all jet lagged, and so I would wake up at like 3 or 4 in the morning and kind of go down to the lobby of the hotel. And after I started doing that, they started keeping the cafe open 24 hours so that I would have my coffee at 3 or 4 in the morning, kind of looking out the window at the cobble streets in Lisbon. And it was really about people. It's really about people in a way.
Yeah, it's absolutely all about people and the environment, right? Like when you go out and you see, like right now in Vancouver, the cherry blossoms, is going to affect you emotionally and intellectually. And when I'm back home and you come out of to the street and there's a pink house and a bright blue house and the man selling balloons and everything is colorful and noisy, of course that's going to totally affect how you perceive the world and therefore how you communicate through design.
Absolutely. Okay, number three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? Well, I really believe that design is an incredibly powerful tool, and everything we see around us has been designed by somebody. Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. Somebody thought about it and created it. So for me that is really important, because I think communication amongst humans is crucial, because that's what makes the world go round, and being able to contribute to that communication, it's something that is really, really important to me. And that's why I'm an educator as well, because I think we need to train the new wave of designers and help them to really pay attention to the world and how they're going to communicate that world that they experience through effective and meaningful communications for their audiences, whatever projects they're working on.
Great. And on the audio podcast, some people struggle with number 4, but the question is, what does your future look like?
How does my future look like? Well, I am a very optimistic person, so I hope that my future is going to be looking bright. At the present time, I'm kind of pivoting with my career and what I'm doing. Like I'm kind of putting all my experience and all my knowledge and everything that I've done so far, and looking at different ways of relating to the world and communicating with the world. And one of those spaces is probably in the three-dimensional space with exhibitions and brand extensions to spaces, and trying to affect that the way that people relate to how they navigate the physical world. So that's one thing, and then also creating a program that I want to reveal too much about it because still in its early stages, but it's an education program that using critical thinking, and it's going to be really focused on teenagers.
I feel like our recent guest, Dr. Garnett Hertz, is in a similar space. I mean, he's such an accomplished academic. He's, did his PhD in Los Angeles and is a Fulbright scholar. Now he's a Canada Research Chair at Emily Carr. But in the evenings after his work is done, he goes to the skate park and does graffiti at the skate park. And I thought it's so bizarre for somebody to so academically minded to want to do that kind of vernacular, But I think that's him searching for the next thing. Okay, so the next question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Is that, pardon?
Location, how does place play into what you do?
Well, as I was talking about earlier, depends on, I find that wherever you are located in the world really affects the output. And I'm not saying that design is all about personal expression, because, we're always delivering a message to an audience, but of course our physical environment is going to affect how we relate to the world, and that's our own experiences are going to be put on the work we do inevitably. That is just, it's going to happen. And I find that this couple of years in lockdown, I actually see my work kind of change. Maybe it became a little more restrained and perhaps more focused, which is, it's not a bad thing to go through those changes and really absorb whatever is around you and express what's going on around in the world as well.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because we do a lot of social media marketing for the podcast, and I feel a certain way when I'm in Vancouver doing that. It's all on the phone, it's all on digital, in a way that the physical environment shouldn't be affecting it so much. But I do feel a certain rightness here. And for example, when I was in Lisbon trying to do the same thing, it wasn't the same. There was something that was different about it. One thing might be the time difference, I'm not sure, but there's something even within that digital space that's affected by the physical environment, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So the next one is, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Oh, I would give myself a lot of advice, but I think the main one is do not judge yourself so much. I think as a young designer, I was kind of scared of showing my work, because I was like, what if it's not good enough? What if people are not going to like it? And I think that I kind of shot myself on the foot with that. I probably let go of some opportunities just because I was scared. So, the advice I would give myself is just get out there, talk to people, show your work. Nobody's work is perfect, and the only way to improve is by having the feedback and putting yourself out there, and it's not personal, right?
I think a good example of a person like that is Marion Banshees. Her work is so intricate and so beautiful, but she was very much in a production role for much of her life, kind of quietly behind the scenes making this. And it wasn't until she kind of embraced the bigger design community and showed her work to a lot of the bigger designers that she started getting recognition for that, and started realizing that there was real value in what she was doing, separate from what anyone else was doing, I think, in a way. Okay, so the next question is, what's a day in your life like?
Well, a day in my life, every day is different. So the days that I'm teaching, I basically kind of dedicate the day to school. Because, you know, even though I have most of my material prepared, I like to go through my lectures. I review my materials and make sure I gather all the stuff. And, you know, going to school like to 3 or 4 hour classes, it's quite taxing, because it's almost like a performance, right? I like to give all my energy to my students. So my teaching days, that's basically all that I do. And then my work day, my other work days, I do, you know, I get up, I exercise. I think that's super important. I either swim or, you know, work out and go for walks now that the sun is out. And then I put on music and I get to work. So I usually have my days very, I want to say structured. Like, I like to do all the creative work, all the thinking at night, because that's where my creativity kind of starts, and then do all the admin work during the day. So I really don't find myself super creative like at this time of the day. At this time it's like I'm on the phone, I'm with clients, doing admin work, and, you know, maybe on the computer doing you know, building stuff. And then at night or later on, like that's when I sketch a lot and do the creative part of the job.
Great. Number 8, lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
I'm a very curious person, so I read a lot, and I am pretty involved in life, I guess. I love going to the movies, and so happy theaters are open. I like going to plays, I like going to exhibitions, I like talking to all sorts of people. So I have a pretty strong core group of friends that some are designers, some are not. And, you know, I'm always looking at different podcasts. I'm talking with colleagues, and I'm just curious. So whenever I find something that interests me, I go and investigate it, and learn about it, and yeah. So that's and education too. Like I take a lot of courses, as much as I can because, you know, with like being an educator, like some of these kids, if you're not up to speed, they'll get you. So, you know. And I ask them too, like a lot of my students, they know a lot of stuff that I don't know. So I'm quite okay saying, oh, I don't know that, so I'm going to find out. So I go and find out.
I'm like that too. I teach an advanced typography class, and I have a student who's been practicing graphic designer for 10 years or something, and I was commenting, I was like, this font is probably inspired by Helvetica because it's chopped off at 90 degrees like this. And she's like, no, I disagree with you. I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta work on this. So the next question is around tools. Do you use both digital and analog tools?
Yes, I do. I sketch. My drawing skills are not outstanding at all, but I still find that the work is better when I start with, you know, pencil and a sketchbook. So actually last night I was copying letter forms from Jessica Hish lettering book.
Okay.
So I was actually doing that because I find the connection between the brain and the hand, and analog media is really important. And then, you know, of course, I use digital tools because, you know, that's the way of the world. So we need to do that. So I use both. Great.
Work-life balance. How do you deal with it?
I'm very strict with my weekends. Like, you know, Saturday, Sunday, off. I need that time. Not this term because I'm teaching on Saturday. Not a good idea. So. And I do other stuff that is not related to work. Like I'm a dancer, so I dance. And, you know, the typical friends and family is super important. Because I find, you know, there's been times in my career when I've been totally burned out. and it's not good. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for me, for my health, or people around me either. Like when you're burnt out, I can't be as efficient and creative and a good leader, right? Like tired people should go to sleep. So I'm really I've learned that with time, right? I find myself better with that balance now.
Great. Okay, halfway. Number 11. If you weren't doing what you do now, what would you be doing?
Oh boy, I would be lying there at the beach drinking margaritas. I don't know. That's a good question. I can't imagine my life without design. But maybe I will be an actress actually.
Okay. Number 12. What would you not like to do with your career?
What I would not like to do with my career. Well, you know, one of the things that I refuse and I have refused is to do work that doesn't align with my values. I've been in the position a couple of times where it's lucrative contracts, but it's stuff that I just don't believe in. And sometimes you just have to say no and let it go. And yeah, I'm not willing to do work that is going to harm people in any way, shape, or form, whether it's perceived or factual. Like just, you know, when I get that feeling that no, so I won't compromise my beliefs and values for work.
I have a panel discussion coming up where I'm supposed to talk about AI, and I don't really know anything about AI, except for the kind of horrible post-apocalyptic future with AI, and I'm like, do I really want to get up there on stage and talk about this? But I think maybe there's another way to do it. Do you have a favorite word, quote, or a sentence?
A favorite one quote. I forgot the whole quote, but it's, oh my god, I actually wrote it down. I forgot it. It's in a nutshell, it's like design is culture, and that is something that is really close to my heart, because I think as designers we have a lot of power. Oh, and the second one is like, I think it was Nelson Mandela that said education is the only thing that is going to save the world.
Right.
And that has really influenced my career, really working at the museum, at Science World, and then, you know, being an educator is like, as long as people are learning and are being curious, I think there's hope.
Right. I mean, it's interesting right now because there's so much kind of controversy around higher education these days. You know, do you need it? Does it serve the purpose it does? But both of us, in our frontline educator kind of capacities, know the importance of it, right? And know how you can't replace it with anything else. It's interesting. Do you have a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Least favorite word quote. Yes, something that I've heard a lot is like, just make it pretty. It's like that sentence can just like drive me like crazy. It's like, no, I don't make things pretty, I make things work. So yeah, that would be that one.
I'm like that because you know, I'm always kind of fighting against decorative design. I don't like decorative design. I don't like it when people put shapes and for no reason, you know, and layout choices for no. I like clarity, and I like structure, and I like communicating a certain way. But we recently had Keith Town on the show, and he told me, he's like, well, decoration has a purpose too. It has a function too, right? You're trying to maybe create a brand identity, or you're trying to kind of create a kind of experience for somebody using decoration, and it's hard not to agree with that at the same time. So I'm starting to question my own values around aesthetics and design.
I think it has to be appropriate, right? Like,
yeah.
Maybe there's going to be certain projects that if it's highly decorative, like if we look at Victorian design, for example, or even like psychedelic, right? It's quite decorative, or like some of those movements. But but it has to be appropriate to the client and what they're trying to do, and just to put decorations for the sake of doing it, if it doesn't communicate anything, if it doesn't support the message and what you're doing, then it's useless, right? Then it's like just pretty. And I think we should create beautiful things, definitely, but they need to be appropriate to the project. That's my thinking with that.
I'm all with you on that. If you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what word would you choose?
One word. Curious.
Nice. What keeps you up at night?
It's a lot of things lately, but I find that I was saying that my creative time is at night, so a lot of times my brain just keeps working. And it's like I wake up thinking about a project or something that I'm doing, so I always have a sketchbook beside, like, on my night table, so I can put my fabulous ideas on paper before they evaporate again in the night. So
nice. Final stretch, what's a dream you're chasing?
Well, right now, I guess my dream is really to find my footing for the next stage of my career and my life. And I have, as I said, I have a couple of big dreams that I'm working on. So that is in the, and keep myself healthy and happy for however many years I have left. So I just want to make sure that I'm using my time very wisely and having fun. I think having fun is crucial.
What inspires you?
Life. I find, I tend to find inspiration everywhere I go. Like right now, I'm inspired. I'm looking at your posters and the trees, and then talking to great people, and my students. They actually, some of them really inspire me, and being part of the creative community, and my nephew, and just the possibility of traveling again. So I see inspiration in basically everywhere. Yeah.
It's so interesting, right? Because we have so many designers on the show, and after you listen to a few of them, you realize, oh yeah, designers, we talk about designers as being just designers, and that's who they are, that's what their life is like, but they have other things in their lives too, right, that inspire them, or that are the reasons why they do what they do. So it's very valid. Any advice you'd like to share?
Any advice? I say, always be yourself, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. There's room for everybody, and if you are willing to share and willing to learn, then things are going to be okay.
And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you? What's our call to action?
Well, my call to action, as a designer, I would say, you can keep tabs on me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm the most active. I do not have Instagram. I don't know. I'm not going there. But I'm also super involved in the Canadian design community. So you can keep track of me also through Descan, so descan.ca. I'm the current president of the Vancouver chapter, and again, because I'm an educator, you can find me at almost any of the schools. So I'm around. But LinkedIn is where I'm the most active.
Great.
I always post there.
Great. Well, thanks so much for being on. It's so great to kind of embrace the local design community, and I have no better ideas of how to do that than to have you on the show. It's perfect for that. I think we're all excited to see what you decide to do next and how these things kind of congeal and move to the next step. So I think we'll all be following you on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Thomas.
Thanks.